in to this very important conversation today on the MCGM budget for this coming year. This conversation is put together by Mumbai First and Blue Ribbon Movement. We'll talk a little bit about those organizations later in the conversation. It's also being supported by Citizen Matters, which I shall tell you about during the course of our conversation. But for now, we have been very successful, I would say, in assembling together some of the best people to talk about the topic of the budget here. I'm Abhishek. I am the best person to ask questions because I know the least about this budget. And I'm going to play the voice of the ordinary citizen who would like to know things. And I'm going to just take a moment to introduce our panel. So start with Dr. Ravikant Joshi. He's an urban finance and management consultant. He's got experience of conceptualizing, designing, and implementation of financial, budgetary, and accounting reforms in the Vadodara Municipal Corporation, and fairly an expert in this area. We have Mr. Srinivas Alavilli, who comes from Bangalore, actually, Janagraha. He heads the civic participation team there. And we keep hearing, Mumbaikars keep hearing a lot about Bangalore and what's happening there, especially in the civic space. And obviously, everybody here knows Janagraha. He's responsible for the civic tech platform I Change My City, which is used by lakhs of citizens and officials. So welcome, Srinivas, and thank you for joining. We have Mr. Chaitanya Marpakwar. I'm sorry, Chaitanya, I got a pronunciation wrong. Chaitanya is a journalist with none other than Times of India. He covers civic and political issues for India's most prominent newspaper. He's also a recipient of prestigious awards, the Ramnath Goenka National Award for Civic Reporting and the Mumbai Press Club's Rednick Award for City Reporting. So Chaitanya, thank you for joining us. And we have Abhay here, Abhay Kantak, 16 years of experience in the consulting and advisory space. Presently, the Director of Urban Practice at CRISIL Risk and Infrastructure Solutions.
Good evening,
so we have really amazing firepower today in the room in this panel. So really looking forward to this conversation. So firstly, thank you all of you for accepting this invite from us and giving us your time. When we start this panel, just want to highlight the importance of this conversation for every Mumbaikar. We are talking here about the MCGM budget. There's serious money that is being used for our city, and very often citizens don't have too much of an idea what happens with that money, the money that they pay in taxes. MCGM is one of the richest bodies in South Asia when it comes to being a municipal corporation and its budget allocation. So today we're going to scratch a little bit to understand what is this budget all about and what do we need to know as citizens about this budget. So the first question I thought I'll ask all our speakers would be, what is the one thing about the budget that the citizens must know? So we'll just start with a very concise one thing, kind of an opening remark before we open this conversation. And maybe Dr. Joshi, we could begin with you on what's one thing citizens should know about their city budgets.
Welcome all who are listening. It's a very pertinent question to my mind. We all should know what kind of service level improvement.
I think we're losing your voice. Yeah, I am not being able to hear you clearly.
There's some internet issue over here because I'm in a village. Is it now audible?
No, Ravikant. So maybe you want to turn off your video, then we can probably hear your audio better. Just to see if that works.
Is it okay now? Or no?
No, Ravikant, I think we're not being able to hear you. Hello?
Many to read,
And then I come back.
Yeah, you may have to re-log in. So maybe then the next person to answer the question would be you, Srinivas. What's the one thing we should know about the budget?
Budget in general, right? Not this year's budget, but budget in general.
General budget, city budgets.
I'm so glad you asked that question, and I'm so glad that you're actually holding this event and conversation because, the one thing that we should all know about city budgets is city budgets dictate our life more than any other budget, right? So we know a lot about union budget. We know a lot about the Maharashtra budget. We know what color clothes the finance minister is wearing to present the budget, what color of the briefcase or the iPad she's carrying. We know what sweets are being made and what time the sweet is made, and all the details about the union budget. And eagerly waiting for it, anxiously looking at what is up, what is down, all of this stuff. Not at that level of excitement or media frenzy, but even in the state budget, you will see that the state finance minister will arrive with great fanfare at the Vidhan Sabha and present the budget, and endless TV debates are made on that. So all of these budgets in a three-tier governance structure that we live in, the third tier, which is a city, the BMC, is the third tier and the most closest tier to all the citizens of Mumbai. And the budget of that city, the city budget, is the most important budget compared to any other budget. It's going to determine what happens when you wake up in the morning till how you get home in the evening from wherever you went. So the city budget dictates how you travel, how you live, what you eat, where you go, the air you breathe. All of that have a lot to do with what happens in the city budget. Unfortunately, the city budgets do not receive this kind of attention or participation either from the city or even from the media. In Mumbai, I'm guessing that Mumbai, being one of the largest cities in terms of budget, also the most powerful economic center of the world, and the way Mumbai is structured, the budget is also quite impressive and miles ahead of any other city in India in terms of tax collections and strength of own revenues and all of that. So because of that, I feel like perhaps Mumbaikars are more familiar with the city budget. I wouldn't be able to comment on it. I'll look to Mr. Joshi and Abhay and Chaitanya to speak more on that. But if I were to say what's the one thing you should know that city budget dictates your life. So you should care and you should engage more on the city budget. Thank you.
Okay, city budget dictates our life. And I'm going to go to Chaitanya next, and then Abhay, and then I'll come to you, Ravikant. So Chaitanya, over to you. Wide range of civic issues. What's the big deal here?
I think I would take it forward from where Srinivas said that it dictates the lives. And I think careful reading of the civic budget will help you understand where you are in the priority list of the people who govern your city. As a citizen, as a society, as a locality, then as a community. So the budget is basically the whole, in the large matrix of where money comes and money goes, you can figure out where you stand. Just to give a basic perspective, this year's budget outlay was about 45,000 crores, which is about 17% more than last year. And we have something called as capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. So capital is where all the big projects like the coastal road, our roads, then the Methi River rejuvenation, then the stormwater drains, sewage treatment plants. Those are the big capital where new assets are created. Then we have what we call as a revenue expenditure, which is almost as much as expenditure. In fact, 2% more, which is the maintenance cost. So being spent on salaries and pensions is a lot. Another big figure that people talk about is that Mumbai has a fixed deposit of 82,000 crores, which is factually correct. But I want to point out that out of this 82,000 crore, about 50,000 crore is fixed for salaries and pensions of the employees, because the corporation or the BMC is a trust. So they are holding this money in their nature as a trust of the employees, and the remaining money is linked to infrastructure projects. And I think a lot of stuff that
Chaitanya, I think
is not the budget. If you see last year's budget between March and February of next year, everything changes. So the budget is as much as a financial instrument, it is a political instrument. I think I leave it for the rest.
Yes, thanks, Chaitanya. That's quite an insight in itself, that your priority is basis of your budget, and the budget's a political document also. Abhay, over to you. What would you say a citizen must know about the budget in addition to these two?
Yeah, good evening. So Abhishek, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. As far as the budget is concerned, I think the headline number of 22,000 crores as the revenues of the local government is something that one should know. If you have to assess the strength of the local government, you need to see what is their own revenue share compared to what they get from the state or the central government. So there is one item which is the octroi compensation, which octroi got abolished after the GST bill was passed. So they get a compensation which will be valid till 2022 this year. I think after that 5 years of GST compensation, the central government, there will be no compensation given. So the octroi compensation that the city gets is around 10,000 crores. So roughly 45% of their revenues are dependent upon an external form of government, which is the state government, which devolves it from what they get the compensation from. So from a perspective of the strength of the own revenues, such a high dependence on a state government or a central government is not a good sign. Earlier, historically, octroi was its own source of revenue, so this was constituted as their own source of revenue. Roughly around 90 to 95% of the city's budget own revenue was from internal revenues. So from post 2017, we have seen the strength of the local government budget on declining because of external dependence. So I think that's one point just want to highlight. Second point that I want to highlight about the city's budget, which is unique in the country, is that they have a budget called the G budget. That's called the water supply and sanitation services. This is completely ring-fenced. This happened in 1974, and this accounts moved to a very commercial-based accounting system in 74 because for World Bank loan and on those conditions. What a ring-fence budget means that whatever revenues they earn on water supply and sewerage, they have to be spent on water supply and sewerage only. This budget does not have access to any other revenue source, be it octroi compensation or property tax or any other source of the municipal budget. So if they are in deficit and they want some money from the other budget of the municipal corporation, then it goes as a loan from the other budget to the G budget. So a completely ring-fenced budget is something that is unique to this city, and no other city has it.
Interesting. So
yeah,
ring-fenced budget, and like you're saying that the declining strength perhaps of the local government in terms of its share. So I'll come to you, Ravikant, now with two questions instead of one. One is, what should citizens know about the budget? And maybe you can also get us started with what are the highlights of this time's budget according to you?
Am I now audible?
Unfortunately, the voice is still,
Yeah, so there is some problem with the audio, sir.
Yeah, there is a problem.
I don't know why.
You have headphones, perhaps?
Is it the internet issue or is it, yeah?
It sounds like an audio issue, output device issue.
We'll just take a minute or two to see if we can solve this. So could we just take a minute, just hoping.
Every day well, I'm able to listen to people.
Yeah, you're able to listen. We are, Ravikant, your voice is coming like a shredded voice. For some reason, it's not a, it's a rough voice, which is harder to hear. I think it's the internet connection. Yeah, maybe it with the headphones. No, not even now, I guess. We can't. Bad internet. I think you'll have to try with a hotspot or. So maybe while you figure this out, and hopefully you will, I'm just wondering if I can open this question to the rest of the panel, especially I would say Chaitanya and Abhay, since you all definitely have had a closer look at the Mumbai budget specifically. And Abhay, you already gotten us started with what stands out in general for the budget. But maybe any other specific things that stand out for you, starting with you, Chaitanya, maybe, and then Abhay, especially for this year.
I mean, I think I will leave the financial bits for Abhay. From a citizen's perspective, I was pretty surprised that the allocation for management of open spaces was pretty low. And you know, the budget is in BMC, the convention is that the budget is also a policy document. It's not just a financial document. So we have been without an open spaces maintenance policy since 2017. And we have about 1200 odd open spaces which are designated as RG and PG, which means recreation ground and playgrounds. So we don't have a fixed policy for their maintenance. And over the last 4-5 years, consistently, the money allocated for the gardens department is reducing. So ranging from about 350 crore this year, we are about 200 crore allocation for the whole year for all the gardens and playgrounds in the city, which I thought was a bit of a misplaced priorities on part of the government. And the other bit is what Abhay also said is that this year, because of the discount in the premiums, the builders basically bailed out the municipal corporation. Otherwise, it's very alarming to know that the city is slipping into the pink of its financial health. This year, for the record, BMC has taken an internal loan of 5,000 crore and also withdrawn 10,000 crore from its special reserve funds. And this money has been taken out to meet the already booked amounts for Coastal Road, the Goregaon-Mulund Link Road, and the other big projects like the Mithi rejuvenation, which are coming up. So I think as we head into the next couple of years, this year being an election year, there were no new taxes. But I am pretty sure in April, the property taxes are going to rise by 20% for everyone in Mumbai city, except for those living in below 500 square feet houses. So your maintenance bills are surely going to go up. There is a new, it's worded very smartly. It's not a tax, but it's called as a fee, which is a fire service fee. So that added money is going to go out of your pocket to come April. Then there is also the garbage disposal fee, which is going to come, which is again going to be taken out from your pocket. So basically, it's a bit of a wordplay where the word tax is not used, and they use words like service fee and service charge. So I think the citizens will have to be prepared to pay much more in terms of maintenance to their housing societies. So I think these are the couple of things. Otherwise, you know, the big ticket projects are because the BMC does not have enough money. No new projects are being announced. So they are basically the political thought process is that you at least complete the committed projects that you have said that you will continue in the next 3-4 years, and then deliver those projects. So I think that's the big message from the budget is that our reserves are helping us scale through these times. But I see a future where municipal bonds will have to be floated to even pay basic salaries of the municipal employees.
They sound like great news, Chaitanya. Less open spaces, more taxes, declining financial health. Ravikant, have you been able to join into another device? Because there was an echo when you were sharing.
Oh, no. What I need to do now?
Dr. Joshi, you have to close out one account. I think because of you're logged in from 2 IDs, there's an echo.
Is it now okay?
Yeah, the great.
Your voice is okay now.
Yeah, perfect.
We can hear your voice nice and clear now.
Okay. Let me now. Can I go, or you want to?
Abhay, if it's okay, Ravikant can.
Yeah, Dr. Joshi. Please, Dr. Joshi, please.
Okay. Thank you. Finally, sorry for all this thing. See, let me answer your very first thing. Why one should know in one line about the BMC budget. I take Srinivas what he said. Budget dictates our life. I will say our quality of life and our productivity depends on what municipal bodies provide to us. And that depends on the budget. So it is the service level improvement which happened in the last year and which is going to be done or achieved in the next year. That is what budget tells us. Unfortunately, Mumbai budget doesn't tell that, but that is what I need to know as a citizen. And the second aspect of it is that it is my right. It's government which I have elected. And beside central or state government, it is really my life depends on the municipal government, because
Sure.
the kind of my day-to-day life, they are delivered, services are delivered by the municipal government. So budget is not only a political statement, is not only a financial account, but it's an accountability of the government towards the me. And therefore, citizen has every right to know what government is doing, what it has achieved, and how it is going to improve my life in the next year budget it has proposed. Coming to the second point you had asked, what is the overall budget or what I feel? Then next year budget is unrealistic. Also, it is budget document is highly non-user friendly. And if we look at the finances which he was referring, see, in last 5-6 years, Mumbai budget has been increasing at only just 5% of the CAGR, nominal term. The growth rate is 5%, which is half of our national economic growth rate or state growth rate. So next year, it has been planned that the amount will go up. It has registered only 5%, but revenue is expected to increase by 20%, which is not feasible. So next year, 22-23 revenue estimates are 20% up, and capital expenditure, as he rightly said, has been doubled, or it is expected that 22,000 crore or 20,000 crore rupees will be spent on, which is also not feasible. Of course, this year silver lining is that around 17,000 crore they will go in the capital expenditure, but we don't know how much service level has gone up. So next year budget, I will come back again in detail, but my first reaction is unrealistic. In fact, last year and earlier last year, 2 years budget was not unrealistic. But next year budget is certainly, because of political commitment, may be unrealistic. No new projects, but on existing projects, expenditure has been enhanced. But that is so much enhanced. Now, that has not been the case with the MCGM in last many years. I will come back again when you ask.
I will come back to you for a detailed one also.
Yes, sure.
Abhay, how about you? What is your sense on any highlights for you?
No, I think the point that needs to be known about service charges or fees, we also need to see in the context, what is Mumbai experiencing, what kind of services. I'm just giving one statistic. Mumbai, with the 12.5 million population, gets around 4,000 million liters of water daily. Roughly on a supply basis, comes to around 300 liters per capita basis. If you look at Singapore, it's far more affluent. It's got similar climatic condition like Mumbai. They consume 165 liters per capita. And if you look at, so if Mumbai had around 2,200 or 2,400 million liters of water supply, they could still supply what a citizen in Singapore consumes. So, and even if the tariff, what you look at in water supply, even if you have a jacuzzi at home, you will not spend more than 500 rupees per month. So compared to the costs and what services we get, they are, disproportionate. So there has to be some kind of a, consumption linked tariffs, which need to be put in place. The problem happens in Mumbai, the meters which are installed are not really functioning. So the actual tariffs do not get levied in that sense. So I think this one statistic one needs to look at.
Sure.
Second is around 70 or maybe 80% of your water bill goes for sewerage charges. And we know that we have not been able to treat the sewage that is being collected. We just dump it into the sea. So once the 10,000 crores or 12,000 crores of sewage treatment plants come up on stream, they are going to increase the O&M expenditure of the G budget. So the water budget today, which is in surplus, may not be in surplus going forward. So there would need to be revision in charges which are linked to the services that the citizens are going to enjoy. So, there may be need for increasing service charges, and that may be legitimate also. So that's the other point that I wanted to convey. So I'll stop here for now.
So thanks for adding those. I think my list of points on which I have to come back maybe to Chaitanya on what do we do kind of a question. That list is increasing. But I want to go to Srinivas. One is, of course, your comments, but also maybe from the Bangalore experience, are there things to reduce complexity of budgets and make them citizen friendly?
Sure. That was a great learning from Dr. Joshi and Abhay. I would like you to ask more about the water later on in the program, Abhishek. That's an important area for us to double click on. Before I go into the Bangalore experience, I want to also say a few things here that, when we are critically examining things that government does or holding them accountable, we often always look at things that are negative or things that are not so great and all of that. And it's for those that are constantly looking at these things, it becomes second nature, right? You tend to see the negatives more than the positives. But as an outsider coming from Bengaluru into this conversation, into the Mumbai budget, I must highlight what I see as the most amazing things about the Mumbai budget. Mumbaikars have a lot to feel proud about. All of you have worked on it. The firepower in this call itself tells how so many people have contributed to that city's development. Dr. Joshi has been doing this for many years. The fact that the city has this kind of revenues and this kind of capital expenditure, year after year, they keep increasing the capital expenditure. Notwithstanding the comment of Dr. Joshi about being unrealistic this year, but they went 100% more capital expenditure this year compared to last year. Whether they will be able to do it, is it a gimmick because the BMC election are coming? That's a political interpretation that I wouldn't venture into, but it's commendable that 100% more capital expenditure is being attempted, at least on paper, which means not maintenance, not salaries, not pensions, but infrastructure and adding things to the city. So whether that 50% is going in the right direction or not, we can debate that. I see everywhere roads, flyovers, more roads and flyovers. So as a supporter of public transport and mass transport, I'm not very happy about the inordinate importance given to the road infrastructure. Perhaps it is something that is needed. I noticed that some projects are midway through and they need to be completed. If that's the case, then it makes sense. But I think the budget should make a good balance between non-motorable transport and motorable transport. I'm also pleased to see that the one of the most unique things that Mumbai has, all of you have, that we don't have and we will give a leg and arm for, is the bus transport corporation working with the municipal corporation. The best works within your BMC. We don't have that. The Bengaluru Metropolitan Transport Corporation reports directly into state government and always standing with a begging ball outside the chief minister's office. That's not the case here. And best is really one of the best public transport services you have. And the BMC budget allocates 800 crores. And it's heartening to see the statement that said that public transport is important. Therefore, we are allocating 800 crores to best this year. So what this means is that it creates a city more that is more inclusive and that's more affordable transport. Transport is a means to livelihood. If you are able to reach your workplace or your education space at an affordable, reliable way using the local trains and the bus and all of that, that means the human life, the quality of life is going to improve. So kudos to BMC for recognizing that and supporting best, in a financial way. The other point that is a very important point that I noticed, I really love this about the budget, is that Mumbai has been in the news for the COVID management, right? I'm afraid whether the lessons learned in COVID have been forgotten after COVID, or are they going to do something more about it? I will come back to this point later about whether Mumbai needs one budget or 28 budgets. Remember the famous statement of your commissioner that hit international headlines. He said, when I came in, there was one call center, a central call center. I got rid of it and created 28 call centers. I think you should do the same about the budget too. You have 28 administrative wards, or 27, I forget the exact number. So you need to build budgets ground up like that. And perhaps that's something that you can go into next year, if not now. But the allocation to health is been phenomenal. 7,000 crores, 15% of the budget going into health by the BMC. I think this is perhaps coming out of the experience with COVID and understanding of the real needs of health in the city and some health needs of the marginalized in the city. Most of the people that are in the upper middle class or even middle class have long abandoned the government medical services, just like government schools, as we know. But COVID made us very aware that the importance of public facilities for healthcare. And this 7,000 crores of allocation to healthcare by BMC is phenomenal big number. I don't think any other city is spending this kind of money. I would like Dr. Joshi to comment on it later when he comes in, but I don't know what that means though. I don't know what they're planning to do with all that. That will be good to know. As a number, it looks fantastic and the percentage, right? I also really liked the announcement of Mumbai Parking Authority. One of the reasons why private vehicle ownership is going so much is that because it's incentivized by the government. All the way from manufacturing of vehicles to parking, free parking on the streets and all that. It's becoming cheaper to own a private vehicle, a two-wheeler or even a four-wheeler than take the train or the bus. So creating a parking policy and a parking authority and creating professional parking is going to regulate the road space and give equitable access to everyone, whether they have a private vehicle or not. So I don't have the details of the parking authority, but it sounds like it's going to bring in parking policy, parking fees and all that, which should be a really significant revenue source for a city like Mumbai. If you go into a city like San Francisco, you pay enormous parking fees. If you go to a city like London, you pay enormous parking charges, as well as the entering of the city, the central city, you have to pay more money to enter into the city. So these two things not being there in India, in Indian cities, have caused a lot of imbalance. And I come from Bangalore. So right now we have more vehicles than people in our city. And we always joke that Bengaluru's population is half that of Mumbai's population, but our vehicle population is double that of Mumbai's population. So Mumbai has got it right because of the local trains and all that. But obviously, we also know how crowded they are and the safety aspect and all of that. A lot more needs to be done for public transport in Mumbai, though it relatively shines with respect to Bengaluru and other cities. The last point I'll make about the Bengaluru budget is that the thing that we try to do in Bengaluru, Janagraha has been working with the Bengaluru Municipal Corporation for the last 5 years, is how do you bring citizens into the process of budget making? We call it My City, My Budget. So before the budget is made, we try to involve citizens in giving inputs to the municipal corporation and then work with the officers and create a certain degree of understanding at a ward level and a zonal level and all of that. And that helps make the budget. So it is something that we highly recommend because like Dr. Joshi said, the city budget is the one that delivers services. You can hold the government accountable. So if you are trying to hold the government accountable, isn't it better to tell them what you want to hold them accountable for? The residents of Colaba might have a different needs than the residents of Santa Cruz or Shivaji Park. How is that being considered while making this 45,000 crores? One stroke doesn't apply to all. Different areas, different regions of Mumbai might need different kinds of budget allocations. That information is completely missing or lost in the process of budget making, to the best of my knowledge. So I think that's an area of interest for us. That's an area of interest for every citizen of Mumbai and every citizen of urban India. Citizens in urban India must care deeply about the city budgets and influence the city budget. If industrialists can influence the union budget and business people can influence, trade bodies can influence state budget, citizens should influence the budget too, especially the city budget. And there should be a systematic process towards that. Later on, we can go more deeper into that if you are interested. Abhishek. Thank you.
Thanks, Srinivas. That was a lot of hope also balancing it. I'm going to come to Dr. Joshi because Dr. Joshi, you've heard a lot from Abhay, Chaitanya and Srinivas as well. And I think all of them have referenced you, and the spirit of the question is, what does the budget mean? What are the deeper layers? What are you sensing as the deeper trends? So maybe you could open this up one more level for us and reflect a bit on what it means.
Sure. Hope I am audible.
Yes. Finally, yes. That's perfect.
See, let me tell you interesting fact. Everywhere in pandemic, the economic situation of the city and other people have gone down, but municipal revenue across the India hasn't gone down much because pandemic hasn't hit the property tax and all that. People have paid water charges and this. In fact, Mumbai economic rot has set in before the pandemic year. In fact, during the pandemic year, it has registered 6% CAGR or annual growth rate, while it was negative in the revenue growth in earlier 2 years. So actually 2017-18, we are for 3 years zero. And in fact, pandemic year brought back to the level. And now in last 2 years, it is going up. Means this year, it may end up with the 6% CAGR. And next year, as I said, is unrealistic because 20% annual growth is planned, and in capital expenditure 35% or 40% growth has been planned, which if it happens, it's good. Now, one point Srinivasan raised is a health. Yes, Bombay Municipal Corporation across the India is the only urban local body, and next is Ahmedabad, which has its own medical college. It runs several colleges and also several hospitals. That is not done by any other urban local body, correct? But that's unfair to the citizens of the Mumbai, because Mumbai is not getting any extra dispensation except octroi compensation grant, and that also because octroi got cancelled. Health is a state function, and across the India, it is the state government which provides the health service to the poor people. Now, this 7,000 crore is what Mumbai citizens pay through property tax, which is not the case in across the India anywhere, because that comes from the state budget, and state runs those government hospitals, only Ahmedabad and Bombay. So it's a laudable that Bombay spent 7,000 crore. Of course, there is no incremental growth, but it did well in the pandemic. We know all that. It stepped up the expenditure on the health services, but it is unfair for the entire citizens of the Mumbai that they don't get anything. In fact, this is the cost borne by them on behalf of the state or Mumbai Municipal Corporation. Same is the best. Very few cities have their transport service, correct? Bangalore doesn't have. Bangalore doesn't have even water supply and drainage, correct? And health. And then there is whatever they get is against the property tax. So a Bangalore citizen or any other citizen of the country in any city gets money, gets value for his money in terms of other services, but not in terms of health from the municipal body, transport. But here is a case where Bombay spends so much on the waste transport. Even for that, there is no special dispensation or special grant. In fact, grant doesn't form even 1% of the municipal budget till 2017-18. It is now only from after this GST coming in and octroi getting cancelled. So as Abhay pointed out, 45% comes from now octroi compensation grant, and to that extent now Mumbai has become dependent on the this government for 45%. Coming to the next point in the entire this edifice is that this budget need to be made user friendly, and he said 48 budgets or like that. But what point we should take and learn from the Bangalore is a ward level budget made known to the people, and then people have right to tell that this is what we want for our neighborhood. And he was very right that there are different areas of the Mumbai and the needs are different. Similarly, on slum development, there is a myth that we are spending a lot, but even the budget shows that it spends hardly 2% of in a capital expenditure on the slum redevelopment. It's not big amount. So I will come to the next point later on. One question interestingly was asked that why, even if so much big 45,000 or 30,000 crores spent, Mumbai people are not getting the kind of quality. It is because, as earlier said, Mumbai is not growing financially. Means Mumbai MCGM is not growing in financial terms. It's draining in terms of health. It is providing health service, which is none other local body is providing, but it is not getting any money for that. Correct? Its annual revenue growth is just 6%, while our Indian economy in nominal terms is increasing at 12 to 13%. Barring one pandemic year, otherwise in nominal terms, our GDP is growing at 10 to 12%, and state economies are growing at 14%, while Mumbai for last 7 years is growing at 6% only. Naturally, when your revenue is not growing and your expenditure is going up, naturally your expenditure is in a low equilibrium trap.
Sure.
Correct? And because of that, and in last 4 years, expenditure is increasing, revenue expenditure, as Abhay pointed out, as soon as that 1,000 the MLD sewage treatment plant will come, operation and maintenance cost will go up. So on one side, when the capital investment has been stepped up in last 3 years, it has increased the O&M cost, correct? And as a result, revenue surplus has become halt. Earlier, revenue surplus used to be 9 to 10,000 crore. Now it has come to only 2 to 3,000 crore. Not because of pandemic, not because of the going down of the revenue. It is simply because revenue is not growing the way it should go compared to the national economy. So its resources are not reflecting the buoyancy of the economy.
Sure.
Because property tax has not been increased, capital value based property tax has been postponed. And in general, there is a resistance because in other cities, citizens are paying some 500, 300, and as a national, only 800 or 1200 is the average property tax per capita per year. Mumbai pays 5,000 rupees per capita per year. It's 10 times compared to the many other cities in India. Naturally, if you try to go for increasing property tax, there will be resistance by the citizens.
Sure.
Correct. So this is the larger picture of it, and there is a need that very soon this need to be addressed at a higher level. It's not only in the hand, because municipal body is now left only with the property. After GST, the very buoyant source of octroi has gone, and government is giving compensation, but with only 7% CAGR. Or annual growth rate. So it is not giving 14%. Well, it will get in GST 14%. It is passing on compensation at 7%.
Sure. So I'll open the GST point a little later, Dr. Joshi, because there is something there in terms of share to cities that Srinivas also raised. Want to move to Chaitanya, one for your overall comments, but also just to simplify this for our audience. As a citizen, I'm hearing worrying signs, a lot of them, financial health kind of starting to decline. We'll have to start borrowing. Money is going to be spent, but for existing projects, not for new ones. And Dr. Joshi also said that the budget may not be fully realistic. The property tax is rising. And so there is a lot of anxiety, and just curious about from a citizen's angle, citizens constantly feeling dissatisfied. In your journey, have you seen that as a common thing that citizens will always be dissatisfied, or is there something really to worry about for citizens? If Chaitanya could share a bit of your comments.
No, I think there is dissatisfaction. Which will be there, even like Abhay said, in first world cities like Hong Kong or a Singapore or even a Copenhagen. That's not the issue. I just wanted to make. I think I totally agree with Ravikanji here about the budget being unrealistic, but that has been a trend. I've been reporting on the budget since 2012. If you talk about this budget, the paper will remain a piece of paper. Most things are not going to be realized unless they are really big ticket. The other thing about the 24, we have 24 administrative wards and having 24 budgets, I think, which can work. But the issue is, we have 227 elected corporators who are a very, very integral part of the local body, because we have an executive wing and we have a deliberative wing. So I think they need to act as a bridge between the citizens and the civic bureaucracy and try to bridge this gap. There are two interesting factual points. The issue is we are having a lot of unplanned expenditure in the city in the last 2-3 years. Most of the stuff which is written in the budget is not realized, and random projects keep coming up. For instance, in the year that just passed, BMC is constructing a 165 crore cycle track, which is costing 40 crores per kilometer on the sea, linking Bandra Fort to Mahim Fort, which was nowhere in the budget. This is unplanned expenditure. So that is there. We have the most iconic, I call them the heritage flooding spots, because they have been flooding for the past 60 years. At Hind Mata, BMC randomly decided to build an underground water storage tank, which is costing 160 crores. It was nowhere mentioned in the budget. So, how can you have fiscal discipline if you are going on spending every year 500 crores, which is not even mentioned in the budget, which is just random stuff coming in? And then, so, if you are so particular about the budget, then you need to plan. Another important fact, we have 227 corporators who are elected. We have 5 corporators on top of that who are nominated. Everyone is getting around 1.5 crore as a local area development fund. This is 350 crores, and I am not an economist, but I just wanted to put it across that this is counted in revenue expenditure. How can a corporator spend 1.5 crore every year and say this is revenue expenditure? I can't create an asset from this. So, I'm not sure if the people here are aware. Crazy stuff is happening. This year, people have distributed jute bags for 5 crores in Mumbai, umbrellas with their names on it for 7 crores. So this is all shown as revenue expenditure. I don't think that it is a job of the municipal corporation to distribute lunch boxes and umbrellas and saris and jute bags to people. So I mean, this is happening beyond the finances. I'm talking about the implementation of the budget on the ground. So I always ask this question in my stories, that what is happening to these 350 crores which each guy is getting? So each guy is getting 1.5 crore every year for 5 years.
Yes, yes.
If you ask them after 5 years, they will give you an answer. हमने gutter बनाया, धापा बनाया, लादी लगाया, and those ladis keep coming and going and coming and going, and this is happening since 2009. So yeah.
Thanks for bringing that, Chetan. In fact, Blue Ribbon works with young people, and we did a citizen audit in our north just to track this whole thing. And the challenge of firstly getting the documents, then finding one item, then going to the ground to see that item and to find that that's so murky because there are some, it was an item in a chawl, and locals had also spent some money, the corporator had spent some money. It was so hard to identify what exactly was it spent on. So we came up with an audit guide, a citizen's audit guide, but the process was quite challenging. I mean, it had many layers, and it wasn't easy.
Just to add, there have been instances which are publicly reported by me and by us, that the same work done by the same contractor using the MP's fund, the MLA's fund, and the corporator's fund.
Oh, okay. This is like direct corruption then, which is...
and this is big money. I mean, Srinivas and Abhay will agree, 350 crore a year on what we call as a civil works at the local level is big money.
Sure. And Srinivas, you've raised your hand, so I'm sure you have...
Yeah. So let me first say that it's not big money. 1.5 crores per ward per year is not big money, provided it is not about giving goodies like bags and photos printed and all of that. For example, if you want to fix a footpath, a local footpath within the ward, even if it is a 500 meters footpath, it's going to cost you about 50 to 60 lakhs. So in the grand scheme of things, the amount of money is not much. But the problem here is the lack of transparency and lack of any guidelines of how to use the local funds. Again, I think it's a wonderful thing that the 227 corporators are allocated 1.5 crores per year as a local budget. In fact, they should be getting the share of the 45,000 crores. Taking away the, some big ticket salary and other expenditure, let's say 10,000 crores is the capital expenditure of Mumbai. The 227 wards should get their own fair share of that 10,000 crores. That is how a city budget should be considered and used, right? Based on the area of the ward, based on the per capita number of population of that ward. When I said that there should be local budgets, this is what I mean. The budget should be driven by the local corporators. And the single biggest missing link in Mumbai, it seems to me, is the ward committee. If you have the ward committee, then the corporator will not be able to spend the 1.5 crore it is basically vote buying, right? What Chaitanya is referring to is that it's a long-term, slow burn vote buying. Every year you keep giving gifts to the residents based on who you like, and you promote your own face, which is very common in our politics these days, the branding of self-branding and self-promotion. That's what this money is being used. But what if the corporator is sitting in a room with 10 residents of that ward, and he or she says, okay, look here, we are the ward committee of, G North. We have 1.5 crores. What should we spend this money on this year? Now that leads to a conversation within that ward, and the ward committee should have representation from the slums, representation from the regularized layouts, and from middle class localities and all socio-economical RWAs. Mumbai has very strong culture of RWAs that are really working hard to improve citizen services. When people come together, they will make the right decision for that ward. Nobody can presume to know what is right for any ward. None of us experts, nor the commissioner of the Mumbai Corporation, nor the mayor or any chief minister or minister know better than the citizens of the ward themselves. Yeah. So at least for that kind of a small expenditure of 1.5 crores, the voice should be of the citizens. And that is what I mean by participatory budgeting. Interestingly enough, Maharashtra has other examples for this. Pune has been doing this for quite some time. Bengaluru has been doing this now, and Kerala has been doing it for 30 years with People's Plan. And Mumbai, being the leader of the cities of India, and with such high revenues and property tax that is the envy of every other city in Asia, I would say, or if not India, they should bring in participatory budgeting very soon. When participatory budgeting comes in, it follows accountability, transparency, all these things follow right after that. Because the moment you put your thought into your money and citizens do that, citizens will automatically look for, okay, we all asked for this, what happened to that? Right? Otherwise, it becomes, oh, government allocated 300 crores. They are all big numbers with lots of zeros in them, and you don't know what happened at the end of the year. But if you break it down into small pieces of expenses that are relatable to your own quality of life, at the end of the day, the officers come, the officers go. Corporators get elected, they lose elections, new ones come. But who remains there? The residents and the citizens. Therefore, the citizens must be an integral part of making the budget. There should be elaborate public participatory forums months before the budget is being made, much like so many meetings are held by the state finance minister or union finance minister, taking input from so many people, trade bodies and whatnot before preparation of budget. Same process must be followed. Mumbai should lead the country in creating this process and have these 227 ward committees. You have wards committees. There is a very interesting fact that not many people understand, but unlike other cities, Mumbai doesn't have ward committees. It has these 24 wards committees where they combine multiple wards into one committee. How is that decentralization? Maybe that's better than having one big corporation, but it is not the right spirit of decentralization. I think Mumbai should go for full-fledged after this election. There must be a demand that ward level ward committees must be formed. We at Janagra have been asking for ward committees everywhere and working on it in many cities to some good extent of success. Long way to go. But I think Mumbai has done enough with these wards committees and now should drop the S and make it into a ward committee. And once ward committees come into picture, then connect the ward committee to the local budget, and then it percolates up into the administrative unit or the city budget. When you do this loop, then you will find that the ward committee will actually need 10 crores per year, 15 crores per year, not 1.5. Except that today the 1.5 crore is given as some kind of a gift to one person elected. And we all know the electoral politics of this country. So the people that win cannot behave like feudal age kings or queens and spend that money on whatever they wish. That money must have, the citizens of the ward must have say in that money. All this will happen when there is accountability during the election, awareness during the election, and the corporator feels compelled to involve the voice of the citizens in the process of budget making. This is the direction I think Mumbai should go, and we'll be more than happy to work with all the wonderful civic groups and experts like Dr. Joshi and everyone else so that we can bring in this kind of transformative participatory budget in Mumbai in the years to come.
Thanks, Srinivas. I think that's a lot of food for citizen thought. Some manifestos are being prepared by citizens in the run-up to the elections also, and I hope some of this finds its way there. And I'm from 24 to 236, I think now ward committees is what you're kind of proposing. That's quite fairly ambitious, and inshallah that may happen. Let's wish it may happen. Before I go to Abhay, I wanted to go to Abhay once to talk about the revenue question really. But just before that, I'm going to take a 60-second plug-in. Just want to acknowledge 3 different groups that are here that have made this happen. Mumbai First, which is an advocacy platform. It works with civil society, government, and corporates, and really working to solve problems with citizens. Blue Ribbon Movement, which is young people doing amazing innovations all around the city, trying to get the city to be a city of hope. And Citizen Matters, which is an interesting platform for citizen issues. It's a civic media platform that looks at solutions for better cities. So it's a collaboration here between these 3 and of course, all of you as panelists. So let me move to you, Abhay, and the question of revenues, because what I'm hearing from multiple speakers is one, a macro level financial challenge related to octroi kind of being phased out and we having to go to bonds. You also spoke about user charges, Abhay, which are kind of not linked to usage when it comes to water. And perhaps there are some other fees also which are kind of being proposed around solid waste management. So just if you can take us through this question of revenue, getting our GST share as well. How do you see us managing as a city our revenues, and what would be prudent in this regard?
I think what's important for any city government is predictability of revenue streams. So when you have a large percentage of your income which is internally generated, you have greater control. You can plan multi-year budgets. So when you have a dependency on external external governments, state government or central government, then you are, at a mercy, if I can use the word. So there has to be a predictability in the devolutions from the state or the central government to the local government, and that predictability can enhance the strength of the municipal budget. Now, how can we have predictable revenue share? So what the 74th Constitutional Amendment did was the Constitution of the State Finance Commission as an independent body to look at the revenue requirement of different tiers of government, the rural governments, local governments, and the state government, and do from the divisible pool share revenues with the respective different tiers of government. The problem in India is many state governments have either not constituted the State Finance Commission, or if they have been constituted, the recommendations are so weak that the state cannot implement it. And if their recommendations are made, some state governments do not table it in their local assembly. So what is happening in Maharashtra is this SFC role is going to be very important going forward, post era of GST compensation going off, how the revenue share should happen between the state and the local government. So that is the only answer to that question. I just want to highlight one more thing, which Srinivas mentioned about MCGM providing 800 crores of support to BEST. I think there was a very nice financing model which was prevalent in Mumbai, which did not, which has not continued the last 4-5 years. So what was BEST? So BEST was supplying electricity and providing transport services. BEST has got distribution license for South Mumbai. And they used to levy a certain small surcharge of maybe 15-20 paise per unit of electricity, which was utilized to fund the BST operations. So this was the only case where a South Mumbai resident was paying for the bus services which are going in north and western suburbs and eastern suburbs. So one way where the South Mumbai residents were not pampered compared to the western and the eastern suburbs. Now this has been taken away. So the regulatory body, BST was faced with a challenge where there was a private utility was taking consumers from its, South Mumbai area, the high consuming practices. So what was this? This was a private utility going for profit against a local government which is doing a public service. So the equality law was completely, was not there. So I think there is a financing mechanism for city bus services, which Mumbai had for many years, maybe 75, 80 years, which no other city has. Today, cities in India do not have a financing mechanism for city bus services. We are ready to spend 20,000 crores on building a metro, but cannot build city buses. And many cities in India do not have an experience of city bus services. There are generations who have grown up now not knowing that a city bus or something exists, which is very rare in a city of Mumbai or a Bangalore. So one thing that we need to look at when you're looking at MCGM's budget is that they are hard pressed for revenues, which was earlier the BST budget was to take care of the electricity services and also the city bus services. And their pressure on MCGM was not there. Not spending 800 crores or 1,000 crores every year to BST was not something that they used to do maybe 3-4 years back. So they are under pressure. And just let's look at BST as an organization. Their electricity distribution services are probably one of the best. They're truly to its name. Their technical and commercial losses are 5%. Maybe the national average will be some 25 to 30%. So you have an entity as an electricity service provider, which is far more efficient. And I think, I think city bus services cannot be run on a principle of efficiency. They have to be effective because it is an essential service. It is a merit subsidy. I would propose that the surcharge on electricity should not be just for South Mumbai residents, should also be for the entire MMR region, and that revenue should be made available to the local municipal corporation to provide city bus services.
Sure.
So today, I think that's something which is very important. So I think this is something that's a facet of financing city bus services. Probably many Mumbaikars would not know. I thought this is important to bring it to the table here.
Sounds like a good idea that was somebody long ago thought of it. So as we're coming closer to the later half of this conversation, a bulk of our listeners are going to be citizens and hopefully a lot of young adults also listening in very curiously with the questions of what do we need to know? So what do we need to know has been answered, and I want to move to, so therefore, what do we do? And Srinivas, I think you got us started already with some pointers where you said demand from the citizen side, demand for services, citizen side demand for ward committees rather than wards committee and participatory budgeting. So just imagining that your listeners now are citizens of Mumbai and they're all tuned in and they're listening. They have found a lot of information and value in what you've shared so far. So I would bring it down to saying, okay, so as citizens now, what are things that you would like us to do? What are things that you would like us to demand? What are things which we are not seeing that you want us to pay attention to? What do we do? And it's open for anybody. I mean, Srinivas, already you got us started. But what can we learn and what do we do differently as citizens? Some of these are beyond us. Some of these are more at the administration level, at a citizen level, just to ground this a bit at citizens.
Can I come in?
Yeah, Dr. Joshi, maybe you can.
See, I agree with the Srinivasan for participatory budgeting, and you have asked a pertinent question that what as a citizens we can do. See, if you are not getting participation because of the political and bureaucratic will, citizens must get it. Means start participating. Who stops? For example, whatever works are there. For example, Mumbai First and all other citizens forum can bring out a what we can say simplified budget book, which can be provided in the hands of the people. Correct? Even ward-wise works list can be taken and can be provided to the citizens forum. Simply, they can start doing the social audit and watching it whether that work is going on or not. Is it going properly or not? Secondly, at the moment, it is possible that municipal corporation is not calling your suggestions. Government of India calls. Means Government of India Finance Minister goes on meeting so many stakeholders, and any person can log in and put a recommendation on the Ministry of Finance, whether that is read on, acted or not, but he has a right to put in. Now take that right. It is a time that we should take in a hand participation in our hand. Nobody is going to give you participation on platter. It has a big political dimension, correct? Political participation, and this participation has to be earned. And it is something which, and you start dictating the agenda. There are corporators should be given, as you rightly said, manifesto. Not only manifesto, these are the works we want. Why one has to wait that government will call and then you will submit, or they will call the meeting, form the ward committees? Because in India, I don't want to name, but I have seen the ward committees are constituted without any stakeholder participation. If officers and elected members are going to be the member of the ward committee, there is no meaning to it. It is their fundamental job to do that. Sitting in a committee, nothing they are going to. Real essence of the constitutional provision of ward committee and area sabha, which was concept was brought in JNURM, which doesn't have constitutional backing, but Government of India has proposed. Both were making that those people who don't want to come into politics but can contribute, and stakeholder participation. But most of the state governments have nullified it. Correct? So it is a high time that we need to, means the citizens of Mumbai need to earn their right by participating. It is like मान न मान मैं तेरा मेहमान जाके बैठ जाना है. Listen to me. This is what we want. Correct? Even that voice has to go to the state. As I said, no, Mumbai. In fact, I have high regard for Mumbai administration and all that. Barring other, no urban local body in India is as efficient as Mumbai. With all other covenants and into bracket, they have revenue problems. because their user charges are not keeping even space with the inflation. The inflation which happens to you and me 6%, then water charges, if they will grow at 6%, then at least they will, that corporation or MCGM would remain afloat. Simple thing which you and me can understand, that my income should be more than the inflation. Similarly, at the moment, Mumbai revenue has been growing at the inflation rate or less than that.
Sure.
That's the real problem. And they do not have any extra resource. Professional tax should be given to them. As Abhay pointed out, new financing model has to be, well, regulator cancelled that model, that's fine. It was on ground of equality. But there are other ways, as he rightly said, that surcharge can be on all citizens. See, somewhere citizens have to start saying that take a right price from me, but give me right kind of a service, because my quality of my life, productivity of my life depends on it. See, cost not paid by one person has to be paid by someone.
Someone else.
So shying away like an ostrich, that going for that, I don't have to pay cost, then no, you won't get the service. In fact,
sure.
Why in market we get efficiency? Because we pay right price, and if we don't agree with the quality which we got, we shun away that. Correct? Similarly, we need to pay right price. That is our duty as a citizen, and it is our right to demand participation. Why to wait that the constitution will provide you the right to participate?
Yes.
These people will come. No, start banging it. Just barge into it different ways. Today, luckily, we have social media with us. Means
Yes,
all these new platforms by which that kind of a pressure can be brought in. And for that, we need a lot of social auditors who will continuously see the way we observe that nobody is coming and putting garbage in front of my house. Similarly, we need to see that how my government is performing.
Absolutely.
Is it delivering me? If not, then I have to. Citizens will get what? Yeah. So that is what I feel. Participatory governance is must, but that may not come through because of the political economy and political dynamics. And we just simply can't wait, because then you will require 50 years more.
Right.
It is the direct democracy which we have to assure, and citizens have to get it.
Loved the framing, Dr. Joshi, the right to participate, and that it will not be given on a platter and we have to go and get it. Chaitanya, I want to come to you on this now. Dr. Joshi said right to participate, citizens should do this and that. And at least in Blue Ribbon's experience of working with citizens, we've found some things which are challenging to politicize citizens to get them going. We keep trying innovative ways. But going back to our original question, what would you feel if citizens do would make this city much better? What would you expect from your vantage view from citizens?
I think this is a good time to start. We are about 60 days away from the next BMC elections. So, I mean, we have a lot of wet clay right now in front of us as citizens. So it's a good time to give your motorcycle a kickstart and then, shape up the discourse of the election. Because right now is a time where everyone is at least trying to make their own manifestos. So there are at least 4 or 5 manifestos which are going to come out from the mainstream political parties. So I think now is a good time to reach out as a pressure group, as a housing society, as a lane, or as a federation of societies, and get your points across. And I think a couple of bits on the revenue. See, everyone has spoken about octroi being abolished. I just wanted to point out that octroi has taken away the revenue that the corporation gets, but it has left us about 200 acres of land of the erstwhile octroi nakas, which are at the prime junctions of the city in Mulund, in Dahisar, in Mankhurd, and all of these. So there are about 6-7 octroi nakas, which are more than 200 acres. So in the last 5 years, nobody has given real deep thought on how it can be used for the city in terms of commercial exploitation, also creating a transport hub or an intercity bus terminal, plus commercial use, plus open space. So I think in terms of government going away from the typical bureaucratic mindset of we call it the Tin Mare Do Ghayal approach, a bit of creative thinking may help to generate more revenue. I mean, we are having a very, I think Abhay pointed out about the user charges being low. Our license fees for advertising is also very low compared to all of other big coastal cities, because we have to admit there is a big advertising mafia which operate. So I think there is a lot of scope to increase the revenue from advertising in public spaces, advertising from billboards on government buildings, advertising from LED and neon signages on flyovers and roads. So I think these kind of creative, innovative avenues of revenue generation will have to be thought about. So yeah, Octroi Naukas is something that is right in front of us. I mean, if we wait for another year, you might have a slum scheme on the Octroi Nauka land. So it's time to act fast.
And I love that you're evoking the imagination. I think as an entrepreneurial city, I guess the administration also needs to be entrepreneurial and come up with more and more sources of revenue, look at where there is surplus and tap into it.
And also what Ravikantji pointed out about the city not growing at the same pace like the center or the national average and the state average. Also, I think there is because you can't expect the BMC to be judged with the same ruler or scale that you're judging a Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation or a Bangalore Municipal Corporation, because it has a legacy. The BMC predates the formation of the Maharashtra government. So there are certain legacy issues which have their positives and negatives both. I mean, I would want to see in the next 2 years BMC providing more services which will also help in creating employment. Why should you leave the creation of a SEZ only to the state government? BMC has ample land parcels. They can de-reserve and reserve lands. They have a lot of autonomy compared to other local bodies. Why not use it and create? I mean, Mumbai has always been a service center, but I have not seen any new land bank being unbanked for creating, say, a service, say a PPP model for a service center or a data hub or all these things, or even a Bollywood studio, for instance. So I think the BMC will have to not just politically and financially, but creatively punch above its weight to go forward.
Great. That's a great intent. So Srinivas, I'll just come to you. But before that, I wanted to go to Abhay. Because Abhay, also you come from CRISIL, which is a very respected organization and is a part of corporate India. And coming from that vantage view, the financial capital. So if you would wear your CRISIL or corporate hat, how would you rate Mumbai in rating as a city? And what would you do to improve its rating quality? What are your few recommendations? Or let's say rating of citizens also. I think not only rate the city, but rate the citizens of the city. And if we are like a B, what would get us to an A or even double or triple A?
So you want a financial reporting assessment, or you want a general assessment of the city?
Say a general assessment of the city that citizens can hold on to.
Yeah, definitely. It's a city. It's very beautiful. This, it's got a long coastal line. It's got so much history to it. So definitely, I'm a Mumbaikar and I love Mumbai as a city. But I think the sad thing about Mumbai is losing its vitality in that sense. The city is not growing. First thing that people should know that Mumbai is going to decline in population over the next 10 years. So that people say that so many people come to Mumbai, that is no longer true as a Mumbai city that we are talking about. If you look at Mumbai's, economic vibrancy is also being lost. A lot of things started in Mumbai, but blossomed outside Mumbai. To give you IT, you had SEEPs as IT, coming 50 years back. It's celebrating its 50th anniversary here. TCS started in Mumbai. It grew outside, Mumbai. Ola started in Mumbai, went to Bangalore. So if you look at, I don't hear of companies opening up in Mumbai. No major corporate is opening in Bombay. The problem in Bombay is being that Bombay has not invested in transport infrastructure for many years. 1992 was the last major investment that you did to connect Mumbai with Navi Mumbai through the railway line. After that, there has been 9-coach track going on a car, local train becoming 12. Nothing has happened. The investment that is happening today of close to 1,20,000 crores in building the transport infrastructure is something that should have happened many years back. So Mumbai is going to grow in an investment phase now in infrastructure. Now, after 5 or 10 years, you'll see Mumbai growing back.
Okay.
If you look at New York, also went through a similar cycle in the 80s and 90s.
Sure.
So I think that's something that I think I would, as a Mumbaikar, want to see as a vitality back.
Revitalizing the city.
Revitalize Mumbai. As far as citizen participation is concerned, I think which I like citizen participation. But when a citizen, empowered citizenry meets a disempowered local government, you get dysfunctional functions or dysfunctional outcomes. Today, the local government in India is an extension of the state government.
Yes.
So where do you get local issues getting there? Today a commissioner is ruling the city. Can we have a mayor ruling the city?
Sure.
That's where how all global cities are. Means I think citizens should demand participation of having people who are in power to be accountable. So how do you get that? I think the citizen first should say that we need people who are accountable to the city. Something that is a movement I think I would encourage citizens to ask for it. So that's my 2 bits on this.
Thanks, Abhay. Yeah, the right to participate, the demanding of services, there's already a long list of things to do on the citizen side. Srinivas, what do we learn from citizens in Bangalore, Pune and other cities? And what are things that we need to now do more of that are working in other cities perhaps?
Yeah, it's really about the getting into the politics of it. I think staying out of the political process has cost us dearly, whether it is Bengaluru or Mumbai or anywhere in this country. If we give up on the political system, saying that it is too far gone and therefore it cannot be changed, then I don't see any hope coming forward. So we have to be optimistic and take it the view that we as citizens are the ultimate rulers and decision makers in a republic, in a democracy that we are in. So therefore, what do we need to do? Obviously, 90% of the citizenry is not going to be aware of it, or neither are going to be interested in it. And a good percentage of them do not have the time to worry about something like this at the expense of their own livelihood, their own job, their own livelihood time that is due to the family and all of that. So it is the few citizens of Mumbai that need to take the step forward. Change always comes from a small group of people, and that's a small group of people that need to stand up in Mumbai now. And what we have done in Bengaluru is that we've tried to strengthen the ward committees from the ground up. The ward committees in Bengaluru have a 28-year-old saga. Dr. Ravikant will know this story of it, but ward committees have been up and down, and the political class will keep trying to make sure that the ward committees never come alive, because there is a huge elephant in the room that I think today Dr. Joshi has brought it out, and Chaitanya and Abhay also did refer to, but we still don't call it out that today the reason we are the way we are is the cost of elections. When a corporator of a Mumbai corporation spends 5 crores, 10 crores to win an election, which probably, I don't know actually what is the salary of a corporator, Chaitanya can probably tell us.
No,
in Bengaluru,
jumping in, they don't have a salary. They
don't even have a salary.
They get an honorarium of 15,000 rupees a month.
15,000. So now imagine in Bengaluru, it is 8,000, Chaitanya. So imagine spending 10 crores in an election to get a salary of 15,000. Now, why are you doing that? Does anyone invest 15 crores to get a monthly salary of 8,000? You have to be a stupid and fool to do something like that. So therefore, that explains the 1.5 crore jute bags that Chaitanya was referring to earlier. That explains everything about their history.
Sure.
So therefore, until and unless we participate in the elections, which is the biggest right to participate, of all rights to participate, in a way that we force the hand of the political parties. If the state government is exercising undue control of the local government, and this is a particular problem for capital cities like Bengaluru, like Mumbai, like Bhubaneswar, wherever the capital city is also a big city corporation, the state government, being the seat of the state government, has even more influence over the city than say Pune or Nagpur or something like that. So therefore your problems are multiplied. But look at all the positive sides of it. Look at the amount of money that you all have. Look at the amount of economic vibrancy that is already built in. Relatively, it may look weak or declining and so on, and which I also have a slight disagreement on that with Dr. Joshi on the GST part. I'll come to that in a second. But what you can learn from it is elections are the best time to convey public opinion. Elections are the time when the political parties, the antennas are up. They want to win the election, so they are going to listen to you. After the election, you may not get the chance for another 5 years. So my humble appeal to all the enlightened citizenry of Mumbai, the civic groups, RWAs, and the people that work in the slums, all of them get together. And I am very pleased to be part of that kind of effort. In fact, we had some discussions with certain groups, including Mumbai First, about that. How can we make the elections for the cities talk of the town? Everybody knows that UP election is happening, Manipur election is happening, Punjab election is happening. But how many people know Mumbai election is coming up in just a few weeks? Not many. Why is city elections given so little importance? And Chaitanya is from the media, and maybe he can answer that. Why is that the media so quiet about urban elections? They hardly mention it. So therefore, obviously, there is no buzz about the election and what the consequences of that are. So we have a lot of systematic structural problems. We should never give up or write on institutionalized citizen participation like ward committees. I'll tell you why. Because at the end of the day, we elect these people, whether it's an MP or MLA or corporator, only to be a custodian. He or she is a representative to us. They're not an ultimate decision maker. So how do you communicate to them in a systematic way where minutes are taken, actions are taken based on the minutes? That comes only with the institutionalized process with ward committees. They may not work very well. They may not start well. They will be filled with cronies. They'll be filled with brother-in-laws and all kinds of people. We've seen all that in Bengaluru. It will happen. But at the end of the day, you will end up with a better system than before, and it will gradually solidify and give you a participatory forum for making a better ward. Because we don't talk about money when the budget is made. Throughout the year, every month, there should be a ward committee meeting discussing what's happening in the ward. That's how you know which bus routes you need in North Mumbai versus South Mumbai. When people come together, you will know where you need small buses versus double-decker buses. Where is that process? Like somebody said, the budget is not a financial document, it's a policy document. That policy should come from ground up through the ward committees. It cannot be some influential person like Dr. Joshi talking to the corporator and telling him this is what I want. Maybe that suggestion will be taken seriously, but that's not sustainable. That's not right. That's not inclusive. So that's why we need the ward committees. And finally, I'll come to the GST point and I'll end it. I'm worried about taking too much of the time here. The GST share to Mumbai must come, not just to Mumbai, but every share. And I think it is not, I will not agree with the assessment that the user fee should be increased and more user fee should be collected. We are paying tons and tons of user fee. It is called GST. Every time a Mumbaikar walks into a restaurant and fills petrol, he or she is paying a lot of tax every day. And how is this money being spent? To build grand statues, to build all kinds of things that satisfy the egos of tall leaders at the state or center. How is that money is not being rolled back into fixing the rainwater harvesting on Mumbai? You know, you have the sea, so you're dumping the sewage water into the sea. What does people like Bengaluru do? There is no sea to dump it into. And why should you dump it into the sea? What is that going to do to your local climate action plan that your ministers talk about? So money should be tremendous, lot more money. Mumbai's budget should be 1 lakh crores, not 45,000 crores. And that should come from the share of the GST. If there is a central finance commission, Maharashtra is India's most developed state, richest state of India. Mumbai is the richest city of India. And this city and this state contribute so much to India, but get so little back on the way back. This process is wrong. Therefore, there must be a fair share of money coming back to Mumbaikars from the money they have contributed to the kitty of the state and center. Instead of focusing on that, and instead of focusing on low-hanging fruits like advertising, every time I come to Mumbai, I see huge hoardings all along your highways. Is the money of that hoardings really going into BMC, or is the middleman eating that? If you not maximize that revenue, what right do you have to increase the water charges or some other charges?
So get those. Point taken that
I'll end it there.
Our share of GST is definitely due to cities. Your point taken. And since we are coming closer to the closing, and we just have time for maybe a one sentence or just one closing comment from each of our speakers before we close, I wanted to steal that time, Srinivas, just to make that one closing comment from Abhay, Chaitanya, and then finally to close with Dr. Joshi. So Abhay, any one final thought? Chaitanya, if you have any one final thought that you want to leave viewers with. Be Abhay first. And
so Mumbai is known for its spirit, the citizen spirit in overcoming all kinds of obstacles. So I think that is the spirit that we need to believe in and make this city the premier city in India and also the world. So I think it can be, if financial capital of the world.
Chaitanya, what about you?
Yeah, I think given this January, again, I think the significant bit is that we are staring at a BMC election. So I would want to treat this budget as the beginning of things and not the end of things.
Sure.
Because it is an estimate. And I think hopefully with all the views here, we'll be able to shape it up much better. So I would treat this budget as the beginning of something more meaningful and better.
Beautiful. That's a hopeful note. Srinivas, any final thought from your end before we go to Dr. Joshi?
Use the elections to fight for ward committees. That's my final thought.
Fight for ward committees, clear and direct.
Use the elections. Use the elections.
And fight for ward committee. Okay, Dr. Joshi, over to you. Any final thought from your end? Dr. Joshi, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Mumbai should get fair share of the national and state resources. Second, it should raise whatever resources it can raise, what Chaitanya was saying. And third, what Abhay was saying, that it should invest heavily into the infrastructure. That will become possible if it really gets the fair share from the national government and state government, and it raises its own resources. And finally, coming to the Srinivasan point, yes, ward committee should be the focus. But I personally feel entire agenda of all the citizenry, enlightened citizenry, and all of you, various groups, should be to set in participatory process. If it comes from them, it's fine. Otherwise, we should get it as a right.
Sure. The right to participate stays with me. And lots of amazing ideas, right? From simplifying budgets to participatory to social auditing and so on. So some beautiful ideas that have come here. For all those who are listening, I hope you find Chaitanya in Times of India and read him. Follow Dr. Joshi, look up Janagraha, follow Abhay's work as well. These are amazing people, and I'm sure they have a lot more to say, and they have really condensed what they had to say here. So a lot of gratitude to all of you. Also gratitude to Citizen Matters, who's going to support us in this, the civic media platform that all of us should have a look at. For citizens who have some ideas about the city, please drop an email to Mumbai First. The email ID will be shared, and Mumbai First will look at these issues, try to take them up. For those of you who want to support young people, Blue Ribbon Movement is doing citizen games, citizen audits, actathons, manifestos. So feel free to connect to Blue Ribbon, support it, donate to it, and so on. And finally, just want to close with a lot of gratitude for all our speakers for taking time. Thank you so much. And I really hope this conversation, we have this conversation every year to be able to track this, and also that we can come back and see what happened in the year and reconvene